Yeah, something I've been doing lately is going back over the basics, but in very high definition. And I bring this up again. This has been a running theme in like so many of my videos because in all of these complex metaphysical sciences, people like to just blast through things and they do not have a solid foundation in their understanding of why things are the way they are. And that starts to become increasingly apparent when you hear people kind of like sounding off about things. So, of course, I talked about how we see that in astrological magic, but it's more so like a chosen ones related video. So, yeah, this video is on starseeds and love because this that tends to be one of the two frameworks I think we see with this sort of chosen ones phenomenon. Is you see a very like Abrahamic Christian framework, which is not very accurate, or you'll see the star seed way of looking at it, and neither are very accurate, although they have their moments. Um, so I wanted to go over some of the best evidence we know about why this happens and what some of the most sensible solutions are. So, one of my favorite references for everything related to reincarnation and the afterlife is Dr. Michael Newton's work on the Newton Institute Life Between Lives research. And I'm not going to go over his whole story, and I think I might have talked about him in a previous video anyways, but basically this is a psychotherapist who originally just did hypnotherapy, which is a recognized valid form of therapy, like in terms of psychological institutions. But what was not considered valid or credible, obviously, was past life regression hypnotherapy. So he considered it incredulous, and so when his clients would ask that he do past life regression on them, he would decline. He'd consider it credible, valid, or professional. But one day he had a client that he couldn't really crack the case, and the client was asking for past life regression therapy. So he went ahead and tried it, and it had staggering results. If you look up on YouTube, Michael Newton, there's about around a 45-minute video of just him being interviewed, I think in like the 90s, early 2000s, and that basically will break everything down for you. But I think it doesn't get enough attention because, you know, there's been third-party verification of the credibility of Newton Institute, right? And some of the stories, just the guy is just very authentic and very honest in telling his story. So the fact that he was an opponent of past life and between life regression therapy, but ended up being won over, I can relate to that as somebody who was incredulous towards astrology. I did not believe in astrology, and my best friend, she was trying to turn me on to astrology, and I guess for like a cheap hit of narcissistic supply, I was trying, as many people often do, and trying to discredit astrology. I was trying to disprove it, and in the process of honestly investigating it, I realized it was true. So I can relate to that. I can relate to something seeming incredulous and not taking it seriously, and then being proven wrong. That's very much the energy I get from Dr. Michael Newton. So, yeah, that I don't think people give enough gravity and weight to the fact that this is a very credible look into what reincarnation in the afterlife is like. And you can look into the Newton Institute's work on some of the things that they say, but some of the highlights are that karma doesn't really work the way we think it does. Really, what happens when we die, first thing we encounter according to the Newton Institute, which again, Michael Newton and his students who've continued his work have basically just, they don't ask leading questions in this between life regression and this past life regression hypnotherapy. They bring in people from all different walks of life and all different religions, and they find that none of the people's testimonies when they're under hypnotic induction have anything to do with any religious figures. But there are some key figures that are represented in all of these people's testimonies while under the induction of a hypnagogic state, right? And the first one that they encounter is something that I talk a lot about on this channel, is what's called the spirit guide, or what is known in classical antiquity as the personal daimon. Yeah, that's really the first thing you encounter when you die, is spirit guide. It's confirmed by Newton's work, which has no spiritual or religious bias. This is just the evidence, is that the first thing you encounter is a spirit guide. So once again, it gives this a lot of credence to the personal daimon theory. Yeah. And after that, there is another key figure, which is the Council of Wise Beings, is a way that they put it. And this has been talked about in a number of other interesting and what I consider to be credible sources on the afterlife and on things metaphysical that are done through channeling. We heard it from the raw material, the Law of One material, and we heard from even Bashar. Bashar has a very interesting natal chart that I consider to be profound for somebody who is a channeler, And I don't think somebody does this thing for so long, for so many decades, without having a genuine, authentic ability to be a channeler. So at least a portion of Bashar's work is legitimate, and I find it interesting that Newton Institute, unrelated to the Law of One material, unrelated to Bashar, they all kind of say the same things, that there is this council. And it's a council of wise beings that between lives, you are not judged as would be like a sort of tribunal or a court proceeding. Really, it's just this council of beings, which I assume are made up of beings that are planetary in nature. And they basically point out very gently how you fall short of the ideal, which I suppose, if Neoplatonism is to be any point of reference, that would be falling short of the good that's found in the one, in Neoplatonic terms. And so a very large portion of how our lives are planned and organized, it's all self-chosen. The karma, so-called karma, is all self-chosen, because the karma is a process of trying to undo our error, how we erred in life. And so we seek some form of refinement. Although I do think it's time for you to fucking turn. What are you doing? What are we doing? Just sitting there? Some people still know how to drive. Yeah, so I think it is, to a degree, a little manipulative, because one of the things that's very evident as part of this incarnational experience is that there is a progression into worldliness, and then there's a progression away from worldliness back to the divine. So if this council of wise beings is always just giving suggestions on how to improve, it seems unlikely, given that there has to be this progression into decay and into worldliness. So it has to be, to some extent, a little manipulative. But I think that's kind of what Pluto signifies ultimately, is we have to be, that's our first point of contact with the solar system and this incarnational cycle, is Pluto, of course, the first planet. And it's and I love when you honk on them and when they're in front of you, and now they're just trying to like speed away as fast as they can. It's like, geez, okay, you made a mistake, calm down. But yeah, there is with Pluto to me signifies the plunge into darkness, and it's the death and the rebirth. So it's allowing us to come from the divine, come from the perfection of the one, and to plunge ourselves into darkness, away from that original non-dual source, into fragmentation and worldliness, and then to be brought back, transformed, really seems to be the thing. So yeah, I don't think the Council of Wise Beings is 100% forthcoming and true. It seems that for the first half of the process, there seems to be a degree of slight deception, or maybe there's a more accurate way of putting it that may just escape our understanding. But certainly on the back end of things, coming back to the divine, it's certainly productive counsel. And so these are some of the figures that we encounter in Newton Institute work. And we can start to kind of fill in the blanks around that, because Newton Institute makes it very clear. Another thing is that there are old souls that are later on in this incarnational cycle, sort of in the winter of things, that it seems to be a universal, that when Newton Institute does these between life regressions, past life regressions, these souls that are older, they have very harsh, unpleasant life experiences. And therefore you can infer from that generally speaking, younger souls, they have much easier life experiences. And actually, if we look a little bit closer, we can see a pattern almost, is that you can even see in nature and in the world. I saw a story recently about how a natural environment was starting to become greatly unbalanced as prey animals started to overly proliferate. And so the, I guess you'd say like the ecology of things started to become wildly unbalanced. And then some wolves were reintroduced back into this environment, and it brought everything back into this deep and perfect homeostasis by bringing the predators back into things. So that's the great perversion and sickness of the world, is that balance and health is based off of predators and prey. And so not only does it seem these younger souls have it easier in life, they're almost incentivized and encouraged to be predators, to attack the weak. And we see that very much in the world. But of course, everything is in cycles. We have the yugas. And I find it continuously really interesting that the Kali Yuga is considered the most worldly of the ages, and also the most wicked and perverse. It confirms what a lot of religions suggest, that that the world is the source of the evil. Like, worldliness is a substrate for evil to grow on. The world and the flesh proliferate evil. So really, it is no surprise at all to me to find that the age that is considered the most worldly, the Kali Yuga, is also the one that is most evil and wicked, because, as the Bible says, this world is Satan's kingdom. So these younger souls that are kind of on like the first half, in the spring and the summer of their soul, they have easy lives where the world rewards them. This is why we see it seems like evil people get ahead in this world, is because they have worldly riches, because the world accepts them. And so there's basically no immediate consequences to being a predator. In fact, there's great incentive and great encouragement to be a predator. I mean, it's the worldly way. The world likes a paradigm where there's predators and prey. That's what the world likes. That's what makes the world perverse and sick. And so so-called chosen ones, older souls that are on the latter end of things, they are victims. They're repeatedly victims. They're always victims. And I know that a lot of YouTube videos on chosen ones sort of allude to a point where you come out of this thing and then like you have dominion over the world, and these people that are like shitty, they're in a fallen state. I consider that to be part of a pattern of basically idealized, fantastic thinking that is to be expected as a result of traumatic experiences. I've seen other YouTubers, chosen one YouTubers, be like, if you're chosen, you have the ability to cast out demons from people. It's like, I have never seen that. I've never seen that. I consider that to be, as a lot of chosen one YouTubers are, fantastical thinking as a coping mechanism. If we look at the reality of the world, it's just not true. Chosen ones are always victims, and they can never come out of it. And younger souls, people of the world, they are successful and prosperous predators. This is the reality of the world, and I think you're kind of lying to yourself if you're saying any different, which sounds morbid and very negative and like very horrifying. But I think that's the point, is that the world is negative and horrifying. But more to the point, there is a progression to things, and this leads me into the whole starseed thing. I think the starseed mentality is even more off base and unhelpful and inaccurate than the Christian framework, because the starseed idea is that this world is dark and horrible and twisted, and so we sent these angelic fairy-like light beings from all these different star systems down here to show the world love and light, to teach them so that we can transform the world and heal it. There's a lot wrong with that, and we can clearly see what's wrong with that, right? The people that bring positivity to this world, it's like bringing medicine to a sick patient, and then the sick patient spits the medicine in your face. That's all that ever happens, right? The healing process, it's just going to happen naturally as a result of the transits, right? As we can see now today, any sort of positivity and healing energy is rejected and attacked brutally. It's rejected as would a transplant cells, like a transplanted organ that's not compatible with the host. There's no need to worry about trying to work really hard to heal this, because there are progressions, right? The cycles of the heavens keep on turning. A Satya Yuga is going to come no matter what. And I think the really silly part of it is assuming that the human element is the turning point, as if the gods have no say in things. The human element really is just here to have experience and to develop understanding, and the gods really are facilitating this. Of course, when I say the gods, these are the known gods, the planetary ones. And I think they express themselves a lot through, once again, that Council of Wise Beings. I think that Council of Wise Beings, most of all, is a way, an expression of the Logos Dramaticos, the ordering powers of the One and God, that gives structure to this process of having understanding of fragmentation that occurs when the One is exposed to darkness. Right? So this entire experience called life on Earth and reincarnation is the encounter of darkness. That's Pluto moving away from the One and plunging into darkness. And it's all for the purpose of experience and understanding. And to come out the other side having evolved and having gained experience, direct experience, and understanding and deepest core level transformation. So yeah, those progressions are going to occur naturally. And we can kind of see that in the fact that we have old souls and young souls, and they always have the same sort of lifetimes, right? The world rewards younger souls and encourages them to be predatory and evil. And as a result, all they do is win and have nice experiences, and they're happy. And then older souls are brutally traumatized and attacked, and basically psychologically raped. And in this way, we get the picture of what the world is. Because, of course, an old soul has to be a young soul to become an old soul. And so all the consciousness that passes through this world gets the experience of being predator and prey, which is deeply destabilizing, wicked, and disgusting, which is what the world is. And in that way, you gain a holistic, complete understanding of what the world is. It's predators and prey. It's deeply, profoundly broken and disgusting. And now you know what the world is and what darkness is. So, yeah, the starseed thing. It also kind of misrepresents the purpose, I think, of love. And kind of sort of misrepresents what love is, I think. A lot of these people that represent themselves as starseeds, they're very sort of manic, girly energy, you know? And it's love sort of like love between a mother and a son, or love between like a romantic partner. I think it's kind of a misrepresentation of the really healing love. And so to kind of understand what I'm talking about, it's really easy as an older soul to hate the people of this world. To hate, you should say, younger souls. I call them descending souls on this channel for good reason, because in the spring and summer of the soul, they are progressing deeper into worldliness and therefore progressing deeper into evil. I mean, it's no coincidence that the Kali Yuga is considered the last of the ages. And that means where the person has spent the most time in the world, and they progress deeper and deeper into worldliness, and then they become the most evil, you know? The more time you spend here, the more you become akin to the world, the more wicked you become, unless there's a force that's pulling you out of the world. And once again, we give credit and thanks to Pluto for that, because otherwise we would be eternally plunging deeper into the wickedness and dulling of the spirit and carnality and animal nature of the world. We have to thank Pluto for that. You know, shout out to my video entitled Chosen One's Hell. And so in the spring and summer of the world, you know, there's not, you know, they still hate because they're wicked, and the world, it produces hate. But on the back end of things, in the fall and the winter of the soul, when you're an ascending soul, right? It's very challenging to not hate the people of the world. because they are every form of perversity and wickedness. They study. We know about the gang stalking thing, and people sort of they can't take their eyes off you. They're studying you. Why are they studying you? They don't just want to attack you. They want to find where your utmost vulnerability and weakness is, so that they can absolutely break you. It's one thing if they're just being mean and attacking you. They want to find where you're most weak, so that you can be absolutely broken and suffer and be miserable at the maximum degree. It's like optimized predatory psychopathy and evil. And this is how most people are. Most people in the Kali Yuga are that disgusting. They want to maximize torture so that they can feel powerful over another person, so that they can specifically attack people that have light inside of them, and to break them so they can be in a state of utmost suffering and weakness. These people, they delight in betrayal, right? The people of the Kali Yuga delight in betrayal. If you're a chosen one, you know that by now. They get an orgasmic thrill out of the greatest. They want to emotionally bond with you so that they can create maximum dysfunction and betrayal, so they can be maximally wicked. The people of this world really do deserve to be in a hell realm. They don't deserve any love or mercy whatsoever. They deserve to be tortured. They don't deserve mercy. They don't deserve love, because we can see, they get to have delightful experiences of being a predator and breaking people and traumatizing people, and then nothing really bad happens to them. It's completely inverted and ass backwards, but that's what the world is. The world is the inverted divinity. The flesh and the world are the inverted divinity. And so when you see that, first of all, you have to see that. And I feel like most starseeds do not see that. Most so-called starseeds, people who identify as starseeds, do not see that. They have rose-colored glasses. They don't see the world for how it is. The first step is you need to see the world for how it is. And once you see the world for how it is, now you have an emotional challenge, because it's almost impossible to not be brimming over with righteous indignation and deep hatred for the people of the world, because they really do deserve to be tortured. When I say, I've had one of my viewers be like, I'm offended that you said that descending souls are worthless people. No, they're worthless. They're worthless. Terrible, disgusting, reprehensible people are, I would say, probably like 90% of people alive today or more. That's what the world turned them into. So I didn't misspeak. Descending souls are worthless, terrible people. And it's a deep, deep challenge to not hate them. But that brings us to the great transformation in perspective. This is the real transformation in perspective, because I feel like the starseed thing is very delulu. It's very delusional. It's really not tapped into real deep understanding of the world and the way to engage with that in a real way. So the real deep transformation occurs when you realize that the game is that you are the opposite of a descending soul. And if a descending soul is here to immerse themselves in the world as deeply as possible, an ascending soul, an old soul as they say, in the winter of the soul, is here to detach from the world as much as possible. And that's the hidden secret of, and I talked about that model of the path of the soul in previous videos. The fall of the soul, it has to do with the descendant, has to do with Mars, which is the place in the Thema Mundi. You check out my previous videos if you guys know what I'm talking about. And then the Saturn has to do with the Imamkol, the Nadir, the rock bottom. These malefic energies of the fall and the winter of the soul, they make life profoundly unpleasant, because malefics are profoundly unpleasant, and that makes it easier to detach from the things of the world. And so the game of the descending soul, or of the ascending soul, the old soul, is to sever the roots of attachment to things. And as it turns out, hatred is a form of deep attachment. It is one of those roots. And so is the love that I think most starseeds would have, and that most people of the world have. It's Venus. Venus is not a dissolving agent. Neptune is a dissolving agent. Venus is a binding agent. Venus brings people together into couples. Neptune dissolves all separations. And that is to speak, of course, of the personal love of Venus and then the universal love of Neptune. But a point that I bring up all the time that people kind of struggle to understand is that it's really hard to come into the universal love that is Neptune except through universal hatred. People think that that's like a perverse mentality or it's wrong in some way, but there's actually a lot of truth to it, and the Chosen One, they're attacked almost like equally by everybody. There's not like, you are a specific enemy, but you are my special person who treats me nicely. Like, no, everybody treats you like equally terribly. Like, demons come out of everybody like equally. It gives you universal hatred. But the next step is the breakthrough moment, the breakthrough understanding that it's to stop looking down. That is the breakthrough understanding, is to stop looking down. What do I mean by that? Well, where attention goes, energy flows, right? And so, if we're paying attention to what's going on in the world and we're putting all attention to that, of course we're adding more energy into reincarnating. But if our desire is to not be here because the world is a disgusting, perverse hellscape, then why are we paying attention to the world and sending our energy there and sending our focus there? Right? Why are we putting our yi on the world so that our chi flows to the world when we can be looking up at the heavens? And in that way, we proceed towards the heavens and we move towards the heavens. If we, instead of pondering how people are disgusting, perverse, terrible people, and noticing how the world is so perverse in all these different ways, why aren't we focusing on the planets instead and focusing on connecting to spirits? Which is why the main prescription for this life is not to be a starseed, not to mention that most starseeds are not even well put together themselves enough to be trying to be a helper to other people. They're not ascended masters at all. Like, they have all kinds of issues. Like, shouldn't you resolve your issues before you consider yourself like an angel that's coming down here to help people? Like, I think you're supposed to have some degree of like perfection before you do that. But anyways, this is why my prescription, instead of that, as to why we're here, is to pursue monasticism and theurgy. Are there really two great antidotes to the problems associated with being a chosen one? And when you start living this way, it's like this great pressure relief valve where all your chosen one problems kind of start to melt away. Speaking of chosen one problems, if you're a chosen one, you should become an HVAC technician, because that way you don't really have to be with coworkers all that often. And so I've realized that most of the problems I have in life just vanished as a result of that. A residential air conditioning technician, all you do is just go in your van and just go from house to house. You don't really have coworkers, so you don't have people that are constantly trying to bind to you to make you miserable and ruin your life. But as an aside, on top of that, you get a great pressure relief valve when your values change. If you're a chosen one, it may be possible, I haven't really experienced this as much, but it may be possible that you have a degree of jealousy towards the people of the world, because, if you're a chosen one, you're isolated, you're attacked everywhere you go. Maybe your health is in the shit house. And the people of the world are totally evil, and they get to have all these nice things. It may be possible to be jealous. They get identity, they get fame, they get people, get all this attention from people. Well, when you pursue the monastic path, the entire game changes. A completely different way of engaging with life. And so with your priorities and values now changed, it being famous is not important to a monk. In fact, it's a great hindrance. So monasticism and theurgy are really the great solutions to this problem of life, right? So yeah, so the love is different. The purpose of the love is different. It's a lot more real. It's a lot more real to love. When you're like a candy ass fairy, starseed, it's just like I have so much love because you haven't been through anything. Because you haven't been through just an absolute nightmare of an existence. But it's different when you start to look up instead of down. Because when you're looking up, you realize that the love is a disrespect to the world. Why? Because the world wants you to hate. That's what the world proliferates. The world is the inverse divinity, and the divinity is made up of universal love. And so the world wants you to do this. The world wants to bifurcate and create duality in love and hate. It wants to create personal love in the form of attachment, which is Venus, and it wants to create hate out of that, which is Mars, right? And so the world wants to twist and pervert love into this sort of codependent love-hate thing. And so both of these are forms of attachment and roots to the things of the world, right? That's why romantic relationships are low-key a great perversion. Yes, a great perversion. Because those are one of the most profound ways in which you bind yourself to the world, one of the great roots. It's no coincidence that monks renounce romantic partnerships, right? In order to be a good monk, you need to do that. But yeah, hate is this really deep tether of attachment. Like if you hate somebody, you have traumatic experiences with people, and you do if you're a chosen one. It's like you're forming this really deep connection to them, a deep connection of hate. And so the way the mind works is it tries to reenact things to make sense of them. That's how psychology works. If you have a traumatic experience, it tries to put you in the same situation so you can keep reenacting it. Well, it's true in reincarnation as well. So personal love is not in any way a antidote to this problem. In fact, it can very much add fuel to the fire. It's universal love that allows you to dissolve these bonds of hatred. And this universal love is the love of divinity, of love of what they call source, right? And it is the greatest disrespect to the world possible. And that's the point you have to get at, is because if you're focusing on specific people, you're kind of not seeing the forest for the trees. Because those people did those evil things and are evil the way they are because they are of the world, and the world is evil. That's the thing that people really need to understand, is that this breeding ground of filth, this substrate that bacteria can grow in, it directly and specifically comes from worldliness and fleshliness. Once you understand that, you are off to the races in understanding. Because once you understand that, you realize that the individual person that, or people that were evil towards you, are not the enemy. You need to get this through your thick skull. They are not the enemy, because they are the way they are because the world and worldliness has turned them into that. So once you understand that, you now understand that the real enemy is the world and the flesh, because that is the source of evil. Now, from that, you could take it a step further, because now, instead of hating people that have been evil to you, You love. You love not because people are lovable, because again, they're not lovable. They're disgusting, worthless, and deserve to be tortured. But you love because you care more about not incarnating here anymore, and to be to have less in common with the world, so that you have less of a chance of reincarnating here. You care more about that than you care about how much you hate these evil people. And so you hate the world more than you hate the individual people that have been shaped by the world. That's a monumental leap in the right direction. Now, there is one step you have to go beyond that, because now you are practicing universal love, the universal love of Neptune. You're practicing this love because it's one of the greatest disrespects to the world that you can possibly do. The world's nature is founded upon hate and malice. That's what it tries to warp and twist everything, is because its core nature is hate and malice. I got a cop here. I don't want to fucking be behind this guy. And so, yeah, that's now you're working against the real enemy, which is the world, by practicing love, universal love and forgiveness. But even this perspective is not fully correct. Once I say what I'm about to say, it's going to click in your head what the most correct perspective is and the most correct way of doing things is. Because if you are practicing universal love specifically to spite the world, isn't your focus and your attention on the world, which is what we're not supposed to be doing? Isn't our focus and our attention supposed to be on the heavens? Because once again, where attention goes, energy flows. So if we don't want to incarnate into this hellscape world, and by the way, everybody is going to eventually have this perspective, which is again why you don't need to be a starseed. These perspectives are just coming to me, right? If I was really a starseed, they would just be with me when I was born. These are breakthroughs, these are downloads that come from the gods, come from the heavens. It's a natural cycle and just comes to you naturally. So once again, don't worry about saving the world. The point of the world, it doesn't need to be saved. It's there to have an experience of darkness. We're not supposed to change its nature. Its nature is what it is, and it's there to have first-person experience. But again, if we are supposed to be looking up instead of down with the world, isn't it an incorrect perspective to be trying to spite the world by practicing universal love? And that's absolutely correct. So the utmost correct perspective is to practice universal love and forgiveness for the love of divinity and for the love of the heavens, instead of for antipathy and dislike of the world. That's right. Because that way your focus and your attention is on the heavens, which is what you're trying to align yourself with. You're trying to align yourself with the source. And so, ultimately, this is why when people try to do the utmost wicked, terrible things to you, the most disgusting things to you, it can feel like there is no justice in the world, and it can feel like it's incumbent upon you to be the force that enacts justice. That's kind of missing the point. You're not supposed to bring justice into the world. The point of the world is for it to be everything that divinity is not. You shouldn't try to change the nature of the world. We have a taste of divinity between lifetimes. The goal is to undergo this experience of understanding and evolution so that we can take a really long break from coming back here. That's really the goal here, right? And so we want to have as little in common with the world as possible. So even when somebody does terrible, disgusting, wicked things to you, horrible, wretched things, the perspective should not be, I need to be the one to create justice out of this situation. No, let the world be the way it is. Let the world be a disgusting hellscape full of injustice. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the nature of the world. To work against that is kind of like to swim upstream. It doesn't work. You can't transform the nature of the world. The world is here as a gift from divinity to understand everything divinity is not. So instead of having this hatred that comes from this sense of injustice, this resentment, instead love and forgive, not because the people deserve love or forgiveness, not to have a good relationship with them. You love and forgive to have a closer relationship to divinity, because love and forgiveness is the nature of divinity. And if you don't want to be here in this shitty, disgusting world that has so many problems, it's fundamentally broken. The flesh is meant to be broken. Think about how many health problems all it takes is like 1 or 2 health problems to make life almost unlivable. And most of the time, those problems do not have a solution for most people. Why would you want to be here? Why would you want to make things better here? This place is supposed to suck. It's the world and the flesh. The question is, what brings us here? And what brings us here is to have an encounter, an experience of imperfection and disgusting wickedness. So when you love and forgive, you don't do it in a personal way. You do it in a universal way. You do it in a way of letting go. Because when you do it like that, it means you don't care. You really just don't really care that much. That's the way it has to be. Because if you deeply care, you have these bonds of attachment. You have these roots that bring you back here. I believe this is the love of God. Because if God really deeply cared, the world wouldn't be the way it is. You get the sense that God doesn't care. God doesn't care about our experience here. Well, it's because I think that universal love is such a detached sort of love, but it's still such a beautiful form of love. But yeah, I think that's really the important antidote to life here, to not reincarnating here. It's very releasing energy. You want to release. You don't want to hold on, cling on. When you hate, you cling on. Cling on to that hatred. Cling on to that resentment. But when you practice universal love and forgiveness, it's kind of like you don't really care. You know? It's like, this is just the way it is and I accept it. Acceptance. And that kind of love is really, I think, a great antidote. So, yeah, I think that's kind of my lesson in this video is, regardless of the great imperfection and wickedness in this world, let it go. That's the way it's supposed to be. Don't try to bring justice into the world. The point of the world is to encounter injustice, is to have an experience of it. Otherwise, the consciousness would never get to have that experience. It would not have understanding. You know, Binah is Saturn. Saturn in Binah means understanding. So now that we've encountered evil, we've encountered Saturn, we now have understanding, having passed through this long journey as chosen ones. Now the thing left to do is to release. And how do you do this? My prescription again, monasticism. To not live a fleshly, worldly existence. To reject the world and the flesh. Theurgy. To focus on the heavens and the planets and the spirits and the gods rather than the things of the world. And to practice this divine magic. To connect to the heavens. Love, the universal kind found in Neptune, to release. And forgiveness, again, to release. you do these things, and you will have pruned away many of the roots that bring you back here to this shitty little world called Earth.